Okay, so Catelyn is finally approaching the twins there in the Riverlands. So it's finally off to a marvelous wedding. Nothing like a tear-jerking ceremony, a joyous celebration, and a warm reception with yummy canapes to forget all your troubles, huh? Right? And if you're that kind of reader, flipping through the next pages ahead of the chapter, you happen to be, the same chapter you happen to be reading, then you will have noticed that there happens to be 4 consecutive chapters from just 2 POV characters. Catelyn Arya. Could this mean, I'm acting all coy here, in case you, dear listener, happen to be a first-time reader, could it be that these 2 characters, now that we know they're getting closer and closer to each other, that they will be sharing a very small space / environment / enclosure, and maybe they will be spotting each other, meaning that we will have the very same scene described in 2 different POV, like we had for Bran and Jon and at Queen's Crown. Or indeed, could it mean that the 2 characters will finally meet? Oh, wouldn't that be a great, closure on that arc? The story here certainly seems to be headed in that direction, and I'm confident in saying that George R. Martin has no intention of pulling any rugs from under our feet at this point of the Song of Ice and Fire, so let's just sit back, enjoy the ride, and look forward to the heartwarming moments of joy ahead of us. So, are you sitting comfortably? Then I shall begin. Welcome to my rambling commentaries. By the way, as I said, I do take into consideration the off chance that you might be a first-time reader, so I will be aiming at keeping this commentary spoiler-free. The only references I will make will be from previous chapters in books 1, 2, and 3, but only and no further than the end of this very chapter, which is chapter 49, Catelyn VI, From a Storm of Swords. Okay, right. And with all of that out of the way, let's get going. Because Catelyn and her party are finally at the Green Fork, and they hear the river before they can even see it. They hear it as an endless susurrus. Where does the stress go? Did you know that the Green Fork make this sound from a distance? A susurrus. George really goes for the top shelf word here, instead of simply calling it a whisper. Because, that's exactly what the word means in Neo-Latin languages, You still have verbs like susurrer in French, nouns like susurro, both in Spanish and Italian, susurro. So George here is a bit like Thelonious Monk, going for top shelf words when he chose words like crepuscule instead of dusk, I suppose. So Cat is there, looking at the river, which is now even wider than it was a year ago when they crossed it using the Twin Tower structure in exchange for a certain contract with Old Walder Frey. A contract whose provisions were, just to remind ourselves, that Robb would also get 400 units from the Frey army, but in exchange, Robb would also leave 400 from his own army, the latter force under the command of Helman Tolhart, who, as you'll remember, was then passed on under Roose Bolton and consequently got killed in what is now considered to be a completely futile enterprise ordered by the above-mentioned Roose, and also referred to as the Battle of Duskendale. Then, let's see. Then the fostering of Walder's grandsons, confusingly also named Walder, both of them. But just to avoid any further confusion, the big one is called Little Walder, and the little one is called Big Walder. That big and little in terms of size and age. One of those nicknames But the nicknames also only refer to age, but you look at them physically, and yeah, even those qualifiers are swapped. So yeah, these two characters also, Little and Big Walder, they also relocated to House Bolton after the fall of Winterfell. You remember? Then, of course, the biggest clause in the contract was for Robb to wed one of Old Walder's daughters. That happened as we well know, that didn't quite, yeah, it was not quite fulfilled. That didn't happen, I meant. But guess who did get to marry one of Old Walder's daughters? That's right, Roose Bolton. Once again, I'm beginning to spot a pattern here. Yeah, also, Arya was supposed to marry Lord Walder Frey's youngest son, Elmar. That didn't happen either, but Elmar did end up as a cupbearer for... who did he end up cupbearing for again? Oh, that's right, Roose Bolton. Is this really like a Roose Bolton chapter? Yes, of course. You might, if you made it to the end of this chapter, and if you didn't, you shouldn't be listening to this commentary. But if you did make it to the end of the chapter, then please do stick with me, because you will see Roose Bolton in the pale and sucked. What do you call it? In the pale and treated diseased riddled skin. I was thinking, what are those leeches? And a leech sucked skin and blood. Okay, right. But anyway, yeah, that's Roose. Keeps popping up everywhere. Hello, hi, that Roose. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's insane. I can't believe it. Finally, part of the contract. We're still going on about the contract. Oliver Frey, another one of Walder's sons, was assigned to Robb as a squire. Now, okay, this guy at least didn't end up squiring for Roose Bolton, because that would have been come on. No, Oliver was simply dragged away by his family from Riverrun and back to the Twins when it was found out that Robb hadn't kept his end of the bargain. He'd married someone else, maybe Jane Westerling. So anyway, we finally arrive at the Twins, and we get a second description. Here, let me read you how these twin towers were first described in Book 1, Game of Thrones. The Twins, two squat, ugly, formidable castles, identical in every respect, with the bridge arching between, had guarded the crossing for centuries. High curtain walls, deep moats, and heavy oak and iron gates protected the approaches. The bridge footings rose from within stout inner keeps. There was a barbican and portcullis on either bank, and the water tower defended the span itself. Yeah, I mean, this is clearly designed for no one to get across unless the Lord of the Crossing says it's cool to cross. Now, as for the description in this chapter, here it goes. You ready? The Frey stronghold was not one castle, but two mirror images in wet stone standing on opposite sides of the water, linked by a great arched bridge. From the center of its span rose the water tower, the river running straight and swift below. Channels had been cut from the banks to form moats that made each twin an island. Okay, I can see that. The rains had turned the moats to shallow lakes. So really, I mean, it's impregnable. See, every precaution has been taken to ensure that no one crosses the Green Fork at this point without Walder Frey's leave. And it is impossible to ford this far north, as Brynden Tully found out to his dismay. It's all there in Catelyn VI, A Game of Thrones. It's impossible to ford the river far, north. So there you go. So anyway, Catelyn here is worried about a lot of things. Catelyn does worry. We learned very soon in this series of books. As soon as we get to know her, she does worry about stuff. And right now, she worries as rightly she should, as she rightly should. Like, for example, she worries that old Walder is a guy that gets easily offended, so he might start making tasteless jokes at Rob's expenses. But Rob must be the bigger man here and never answer back. Just smile politely. And insist to have Walder offer all the guests some bread and salt, of course. Why, I hear you ask? Well, because, in Catelyn's own words, after Rob acts a bit incredulous, she goes, Rob, listen to me, yeah? You know nothing, Rob Stark. Once you have eaten of his bread and salt, you have the guest right, and the laws of hospitality protect you beneath his roof. Have you not learned anything from Sunday school, from the Septa? Which is weird because you never really read about the boys, the Stark boys, being, indoctrinated into the faith of the Seven, whereas you hear a lot about the Septa Mordain trying to indoctrinate the girls into the very same faith. So I don't know. That is entirely different beast that will be examined at some point later, because the old gods also came into play in the north, the Stark household. So who knows? Was there a split of faiths among the siblings? Anyway, the laws of hospitality should be common. The very same laws of hospitality are very common in the north. And I guess the same rituals apply. So I don't know. Anyway, so be it as it may. See, what Catelyn is thinking. The worst thing Rob should fear from Walder Frey is sarcasm. That's the worst that Walder Frey could do. Mind you, it's not like sarcasm can't hurt, huh? If we believe Michael Palin in that Monty Python sketch, the Piranha Brothers, Doug. Everybody was terrified of Doug. He used sarcasm. That's right. He knew all the tricks. Dramatic irony, pathos, puns, parody, hyperbole, litotes, and satire. He was vicious. So there, see? Catelyn reckons old Walder might reach that level of viciousness, you see, with this sarcasm. And Rob had better behave like an adult, level-headed and all. Better be on his toes. But at least the laws of hospitality will be upheld. Bread, salt, and all that jazz. So nothing to worry about. Apart from a few jokes in poor taste, it'll be smooth sailing, No worries at all. And soon enough, we shall see how right or wrong Catelyn is on all these accounts. So, 4 Freys ride out from the Western Gatehouse, wrapped in heavy cloaks of thick grey wool, so much so that they resemble a bunch of Michelin men, with all those layers on them. Is it really that cold? Catelyn recognizes Sir Ryman, son of the late Sir Stevron. Now, this Sir Stevron, Frey Stevron, was, of course, Walder's son from Walder's Royce wife and heir to the twins. Was. But then he accompanied Rob in his campaign into the Westerlands and was wounded at the Battle of Oxcross. The wound was not thought serious initially, but 3 days later, Stevron was found dead in his tent, which might induce one to suspect foul play. I don't know. I don't know if there are any readers' theories out there. Anyway, we knew all that from Bran 5 in A Clash of Kings, because Maester Luwin relayed the news to Bran, but most importantly to Stevron's nephews, the above-mentioned Little Walder and Big Walder, who then cheered at the news of their uncle's passing because that brought them higher up in the line of succession, Lord of the Crossing. At which point Lewin was like, "No, shame on you, you little shits. You should be mourning, grieving." "Oh, no, we are, of course. Yeah, but still." All right. This is probably as good a time as any to inform you, in case you hadn't noticed, that these dialogues are slightly paraphrased. So anyway, quick detour into the Frey family tree. Far from exhaustive detour, entire video essays could be and have been published on the Freys alone. But this was just to remind ourselves that the guy greeting Catelyn's party upon their arrival is not Stevron Frey, because that one died in the Clash of Kings, but his son Ryman, the new heir to the twins, when and if old Walder should kick the bucket. We learned that he has a broad, fleshy face and a not too bright facial expression. Yeah, Catelyn describes Ryman's facial expression as plain stupid. And his three sons are with him. Edwin is the eldest, a pale, slender man with a constipated look. Then there's a wiry one with the beard. He's Black Walder, a nasty bit of business, as Edmure describes him. And finally, Peter, the lad with the unfortunate face. Oh yeah, and as if the other three were like top models, right? Anyway, so Peter Pimple, that's what his brothers call him. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What could possibly have earned him that nickname? Peter Pimple. I see. Okay, so these four Freys do not meet Grey Wind's approval. The dire wolf, he starts growling almost immediately and even jumps forward as if to try to attack them, even ignoring Rob's command to chill. "Chill, Grey Stark, chill, come back," because he doesn't. And Peter falls in the mud. Ha ha ha, slapstick. Black Walder reaches for his sword, and it's only when Cat spurs her horse between the wolf and the Freys that Grey Wind sort of goes, all right. But for the record, I don't like this whole situation. He seems to say, Grey Wind, Black Walder. Colorful intro. Lots of grey. There's a lot of grey, hues in this. Like even the banners, that look like hanged cats. Oh my God. Foreshadowing. The banners on the turrets, the castle that Cat earlier on describes as, look at that under the rain and practically no wind. They look like a whole bunch of hanged grey cats. Anyway, so the Freys are all like, whoa, what's this? Oh, well, I never. Why, that's outrageous. And Black Walder now, remember that Black Walder knows Jane Westerling, yeah? Because he had fought in the Western lands. And you might remember that he was one of those angry Freys, so to speak, the angry Freys, who stormed out of Riverrun upon hearing that Robb was marrying Jane Westerling. It's all there in Catelyn 2. Here, let me read you the quote. "What happened with the Freys after you wed?" This is Cat asking Robb, yeah? And he goes, well, with Sir Stevron, I might have been able to make amends, but Sir Ryman is dull-witted as a stone. And Black Walder, well, that one was not named for the colour of his beard, I promise you. He went so far as to say that his sisters would not be loath to wed a widower. I would have killed him for that if Jane had not begged me to be merciful. Yeah, it's all there. So yeah, that was the last exchange between Robb and Black Walder. And the latter is still a bit, shall we say, rude, because he goes, I don't see the woman, Jane. Where is she? What, indisposed? Ha! My dad won't be pleased. He was keen to meet her, face to face, So it's Edwin who breaks the awkward, tension, and he goes, okay, lovely to see you all here. Can everybody hear me? Yeah? Hello? Yeah? He's like one of those orientation people, on university campuses or in tourist villages. All right, so right behind me, you can see the water tower. That's where you will be lodged. Right in the middle, huh? Unfortunately, we regret to inform you that the venue isn't spacious enough to host all of your bannermen. But we have prepared a cozy and charming campsite just next to where our own army happens to be camping, so they can party together. Huh? How about that? The more the merrier. What could possibly be wrong and all that? Huh? We've already put up the 3 tents, as big as circus tents, to give it a lovely Oktoberfest kind of vibe. I'm sure they'll all have a great time. Edmure. Oh, Edmure. Great to see you. Shall we continue inside as opposed to out here in the rain? Inside the castle, shall we go? Yeah? Even the dire wolf? Werewolf? Their wolf and their castle? You could see that one coming, I bet, 5 points if you recognize that quote. So they make their way to the castle, and Edmure, have you noticed how he's always the first to pick on slights from Walder Frey? And immediately he takes offense from them, Remember back at Riverrun when he was all outraged that Walder had sent lame Lothar Frey and Walder Rivers to Riverrun to iron out the plans for this wedding. And he went, oh, well, I never. Walder Frey sends a cripple and a bastard. His words, not mine. Straight from Catelyn IV, this same book. Well, now he's complaining that old Walder hasn't gone outside in the rain to meet and greet the guests. Oh, Edmure, really? Come on, old Walder is, a senior citizen, so to speak. He can barely walk. Although Catelyn doesn't entirely disagree with her brother, and in fact hopes that this is as rude as Walder Frey will be to the guests for the whole duration of the ceremony and reception, although something tells her there's more where that came from, And of course, there's more trouble as Kat's and Rob's party, as Grey Wind just does not like the vibe of the place and keeps howling at the portcullis, under the rain. And no one seems to figure out what's wrong with him, which may kind of fit with one of the prophetic dreams from the Ghost of Whiteheart. Remember aria 8? Here we go. Right there. I dreamed a wolf howling in the rain, but no one heard his grief. Could it be interpreted as no one understood his grief? Could it be? Because, he can't talk, he can't speak, so he can't communicate clearly what he's smelling that smells so wrong, Anyway, it's Lothar, who is always eager to please, and it goes, a place in the dog kennel and a good old leg of mutton and perhaps a shot of brandy and your charming dire wolf with the rider's rein. Whoops, pardon me, poor choice of words. No, he's not a dog, mate, goes Rob. Tell you what, why don't you, Sir Reynold, take Grey Wind with you to the party tent? Which is a smart move, Cat thinks. I think that's where he's taking him. Cat thinks, it's a smart move because it will avoid the situation of having more friction between Lord Walder and the Westerling, considering that the Westerlings are the reason Rob never kept his end of the bargain with the Freys. Okay. So they finally walk into the hall, and there he is, in all his glory, Lord Walder Frey, described as a vulture. Sometimes these Freys are described as weasels, but here with his Walder with his long neck and random wisps of hair sticking out of his skull is described as a vulture. His 8th wife standing next to the high chair where he's sitting, as well as some bizarre replica of old Walder, except younger, wearing a costly garb of blue wool, I'm reading here, and grey satin, and even a crown and collar ornamented with tiny brass bells. What the hell? Oh, Catelyn is thinking, this must be the famous half-wit, one of Walder's dozens of sons, except they usually keep this one hidden. Now they brought him up, and they put a crown on his head, as if to say, this is what we think of kings, could it be? Of people who think themselves as kings? I don't know. But again, from Catelyn 2, you'll remember that Robb is now also wearing a crown of bronze and iron on his head. Here's the quote. On his head was the sword crown they had fashioned him of bronze and iron. He bears it more comfortably now. He bears it like a king, she thought at the time. So Walder wastes no time in making a nasty comment about the cheap material. But Robb is all cool. He goes, yeah, well, it might be cheap, but it's strong, like my ancestors used to make to wear them, their crowns, iron and bronze and iron. It's just stronger than gold and whatnot. Yeah, well, whatever. Didn't do them much good when the dragons came, huh? Huh? This is one of his Walder's mannerisms. He keeps going, huh? Yeah. A comment which the famous half-wit Jingle Bells is his name. We learn a comment which Jingle Bells finds hilarious, and Walder, in an unusual move, actually apologizes. He goes, "Oh yeah, sorry about Jingle Bell. He's Stevron's son, the late Stevron, mine own son. Yeah, he had a couple of healthy children, but this one came out, how can I put it? He's a bit of all right. He's actually named Aegon, if you can believe it. Yeah, no, don't try to talk to him. He won't understand a word. He's just happy with his little bells. So, we just let him do his thing." Which I always find it funny whenever a member of the Frey franchise, names a newborn baby with a Targaryen name. Later on we'll encounter a Rhaegar Frey. I don't know, man. So anyway, someone is sent out to fetch Rosling Frey, because Edmure is impatient to see his future bride, and that's pretty much all he's been talking about the whole trip. What do you think? What do you think she looks like? What do you think she looks like? While Walder, speaking of brides, acts all sorry that Jane Westerling isn't there, cracks a couple more jokes in poor taste, and then goes on to show the Frey girls that had been earmarked to become future queen of the North. Here we go. I've got a whole list here. Arwen, Shirey, Amy, Marianne, Mary. There's even a Cersei. You see what I mean? Cersei Frey, even to ingratiate the Lannisters. Now, they name a child, a girl, Cersei. Oh, and of course, there's a certain number of Walders, even one who happens to be the daughter of illegitimate Frey Rivers. But old Walder immediately rebukes her. He goes, "Out of the way, Walder." He goes, "King Robb has no interest in base stock." His words, not mine. Which is rubbish, by the way, because Robb, lest we forget, views Jon Snow as his brother, his very own brother. Just in the previous Catelyn POV, he named Jon heir to Winterfell in his will. So there's that. Yes, of course, this one must be Fair Walder. The other Walder goes by the name Fat Walder, having married Lord Roose Bolton again. In all this flurry of femininity, as George R. R. Martin puts it, even Aegon, a.k.a. Jingle Bell, he gets all excited and he wants to join. Me too. Nah. Lady Frey grabs him by the collar. "Easy, Tiger. Where do you think you're going? These girls have been brought here because Robb Stark owes them an apology." Okay, so Jingle Bell. Aegon Frey settles down. So, and an apology which Robb promptly, does utter, and then Rosalie finally enters the hall. I don't know no, she's not given one of those slow walking staircase, descent, like in makeover movies where there's a makeover scene, high school teen movies. But yeah, but some people do gasp because, oh, she's so beautiful. Oh my God. Here, let me read out the description while I'm at it, straight from the text. And this is, of course, we are, of course, in Catelyn's mind. Rosalind was small for her years, her skin as white as if she had just risen from a milk bath. Oh, that's cute and adorable. Her face was comely with a small chin. They all have small chins, don't they? The phrase. Delicate nose and big brown eyes. Thick chestnut hair fell in loose waves to a waist so tiny that Edmure would be able to put his hands around it, which we know Catelyn doesn't approve of. Small hips, she doesn't like those. Okay, let's keep reading. Beneath the lady bodice of her pale blue gown, her breasts look small but shapely. Oh, you do get the impression that if allowed, Catelyn would like to count Rosalind's teeth in her mouth. Let's just have a good look at this latest acquisition of ours. Because usually for Catelyn, she immediately focuses on Rosalind's hips, how she obsessed over Jane's Westerling's hips, her childbearing hips this, her childbearing hips that. And in this case too, she's thinking instead of a Rosby Frey girl, that is Rosalind, maybe a Crakehall Frey would have been preferable. What are you on about, Cat? It's Edmure who has to marry her, not you. But she thinks, because it's the Crakehall phrase, the Crakehalls, more specifically, are notoriously big-boned. Kind of like Eric Cartman, which I think is what Little Walder is, isn't it? He's a bit like, both a Crakehall and a bit of an Eric Cartman. But Edmure is all transfixed. He goes, oh la la. He's all like, well, hello there. licks the palm of his head and then sort of like fixes his hair with that same hand, like, yeah, yuck. And then Cat is thinking, I bet you're not complaining now, huh? You randy old bugger. The only trouble is this Rosalind can't seem to stop crying. What's that about? Oh, for joy, my lord, for joy, she says to Edmure. But old Walder would have none of that. He goes, that's all right, okay, enough, okay, you've seen the bride, okay, now, he sends her back to her room, to get coiffed and whatnot, because she has to get ready for the wedding, doesn't she? Also, he makes an interesting remark. He goes, we'll have music now, such sweet music, and wine, hey, hey. He just goes, hey, hey, hey. That's his, told you, his mannerism. He goes, yeah, the red will run and will put some wrongs aright. Yeah, the red will run and will put some wrongs aright. Best remember this comment for later. Yeah, and Lothar at that point, he's always there, handy and happy to please, to show. He orders Lothar to show the guests to their quarters. Except that Robb says he'd rather see his men across the river first. Okay, and this is where Lord Walder makes a strange reference. He says, they shan't get lost. They've crossed before, haven't they? When you came down from the... I'm reading, this is verbatim. When you came down from the north, you wanted crossing, and I gave it to you. And you never said mayhaps, huh? But suit yourself. Lead each man across by the hand if you like. It's not to me. You never said mayhaps. What Walder says here, it could be interpreted literally as in, none of you lot never seem to have any uncertainties or doubts when you crossed the first time. But you might remember that there's this game Little Walder and Big Walder play with Bran and Rickon at Winterfell. It's all there in Bran 1 from Clash of Kings. Okay, it's basically a game that seems to be played exclusively by Frey kids, and like so many children's games, it mimics what grown-ups do. And in this case, who do the kids mimic? they mimic Lord Walder what old Lord Walder does, and his ancestors before him, which is why the game is called Lord of the Crossing, who sits in the middle of the river and gets to decide who crosses and who doesn't, both in the game and in reality. Here, let me read you the quote. Thank God for bookmarks, hey? The way the game was played, you laid the log across the water and one player stood in the middle with a stick. He was the Lord of the Crossing, and when one of the other players came up, he had to say, "I am the Lord of the Crossing, who goes there?" And the other player had to make up a speech about who they were and why they should be allowed to cross. The Lord could make them swear oaths and answer questions. They didn't have to tell the truth, but the oaths were binding, unless they said mayhaps. So the trick was to say mayhaps, so the Lord of the Crossing didn't notice. Then you could try and knock the Lord into the water, and you got to be Lord of the Crossing, but only if you'd said mayhaps. There's a stress on that. Otherwise, you were out of the game. The Lord, so I guess there has to be witnesses. But the witnesses are the gods. I see. But so the Lord got to knock anyone in the water anytime he pleased, and he was the only one who got to use the stick. They love that. The two Walders, Little and Big Walder, they love playing that game, except that it's Little Walder who is huge as compared to the other kids, who gets to throw anyone or the other players in the water most of the times. So there's a lot of emphasis on uttering the word mayhaps, which, if you manage to utter with impunity, is supposed to release you from your oaths. Your oaths are null and void. And notice how the very next moment, Catelyn says, yeah, Rob, if you must go, okay, all right, go. But first, shouldn't you get some food? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more. Bread and salt, remember? At which point Walder replies, food, hey. A loaf of bread, a white of cheese, mayhaps a sausage. Okay, we get it. Walder, so is Walder playing Lord of the Crossing? I mean, yeah, he is, but I mean, is he playing the game? And what oaths does he want to invalidate by saying mayhaps? But anyway, bread, butter, salt, and wine are passed around, so Catelyn can finally rest easily, we're safe now, because laws of hospitality. That's what she's thinking. And the rooms they've been given are actually quite cheerful. The bridal chamber even has tapestries with metallic colors on them, a roaring fire in the hearth, the whole shebang, Oh, Lothar Frey, you thought of everything. You're spoiling us, monsieur. So Catelyn keeps thinking, all right, you can do this. You can do this, Cat. She looks at herself in the mirror, as she often does. She sees her own reflection as if she was underwater. I remember that for some reason when she was in Renly's camp. Anyway, so yeah, she looks at herself in a reflection in a mirror, and she goes, "Okay, all right, Cat, you can do this. Just a few more days, and it's over with these horrible Freys." Of course, after that, there's the prospect of Robb going back to war, and Catelyn going with Jason Mallister to Seaguard and staying put there, where supposedly she'll be safe, supposedly, as we discussed in the previous Catelyn chapter. And those prospects don't exactly bring her a lot of cheer, as she would rather be, she would rather this battle was over, and she would rather be back at Riverrun. Or actually, ideally, if she could have all her wishes, come true. Ideally, she would like to be back at Winterfell with all her family reunited and alive. But yeah, that ship has sailed. In the meantime, as Robb escorts his army across to the other side of the river, Catelyn and Edmure, have a bit of a chat while they're unpacking. Yeah, so what do you think of that Roslyn? She's a bit of alright, isn't she? Yeah, she's kind of sweet. Why do you suppose she couldn't stop crying? Tears of joy, you heard her. Nervous and whatnot. And this is where Kat remembers her own wedding to Eddard Stark. And more interestingly, her sister Lysa's wedding to Jon Arryn, which took place on the same day. I say more interestingly, because Lysa's behavior, here, let me read you the quote. Lysa had wept lakes the morning of their own wedding, though she had managed to be dry-eyed and radiant when Jon Arryn swept his cream and blue cloak about her shoulders. Which, I don't know about you, but this sounds like a beginning of a loveless marriage, because, I mean, I'm not saying that every marriage with a 40-year-old gap is automatically bound to be passionless, but, I mean, there are indications that Lysa wasn't all that thrilled at the prospect of marrying Jon. I'm saying 40 years age gap because you will remember, dear listener, this quote from Catelyn I, this same book. Lysa's match with Lord Arryn had been hastily arranged, and Jon was an old man even then, older than their father. So there. Hoster Tully was in his 50s. Lysa was a teenager, so yeah, pretty much a 40-year-old gap. Anyway, back to that chat between Edmure and Kat, because Edmure can't believe his luck, apparently. He's all like, wow, did you see those other gals Walder trotted out? I mean, some of them are likely to give me nightmares. I still can't believe I got one of the rare pretty Frey girls. I keep wondering what's the catch. Yeah, well, brother, everyone knows how shallow you are, so I'm guessing that's why Roslyn and not one of those other gals. Again, paraphrase the dialogue, yeah? But yeah, Edmure is still puzzled and tries to think of all angles. Hey, maybe Roslyn is barren. What do you think? Maybe old Walder, or maybe old Walder pissed in our wine. There's an interesting non sequitur there. There must be some kind of catch. Oh, just wait and see, Edmure. But yeah, Edmure, really, seriously. But this does disquiet Catelyn, actually, because she's thinking, wait a minute. Wait, maybe he did. No, he's not thinking, no, maybe he did piss in our wine. He says, maybe, yeah. Roslyn, because she obsessed about, will she be able to bear kids? Will she be able to bear babies, give birth to future Tullys, because Frey Tullys, because Catelyn, I told you, Catelyn views women as cattle, for as far as her family is concerned. Let's have a look. Turn around. Good childbearing hips. All right, you'll do. And then she spanks them and. Okay, no, that's not what she does. But in her mind, she does all that processing. So she heads back to the hall. Well, Edmure says, okay, well, you go and do your thing, Kat, because I'm just going to take a nap. So we leave Edmure. And Catelyn heads back to the hall for no particular reason, but she has this thing in her mind. And she heads to the hall where the ubiquitous Lothar is there, having a drink with some of the members of his extended family. So Lothar does a whole round of introduction, a whole bunch of people that I guess George R.R. Martin just added for world building, because we don't really know much about them. Some of the characters are turning up here for the first time. But there is a certain Hosteen Frey, who's actually Lothar's half-brother, because while Hosteen is the son of Walder's third wife, this Crake-Hall lady, Lothar is the son of Walder's fourth wife, Lady Alyssa Blackwood. But family tree aside, and more importantly, you will remember that this Sir Hosteen was also among the Freys who met Jaime Lannister when he arrived at Harrenhal with the brave companions, back in Jaime 4. So he's very much a Roose Bolton man, this Hosteen, because he joined that Frey contingent at Harrenhal, commanded by Lord Bolton and, our favorite Frey, the one with the awesome name, Aenys Frey. Aenys Frey, okay, I'm being childish. But just as importantly, the person Catelyn is surprised not to see anywhere, and she was actually hoping to see, as one of the very few friendly Freys, is Sir Perwyn Frey. Who is this Perwyn Frey, I hear you ask? Well, for one thing, the last time Cat saw him was he was one of the Freys who stormed out of Riverrun, where he was lodging with his mates, after learning that Robb wasn't going to marry one of Old Waldor's daughters after all. But before that, he was one of Catelyn's entourage when she went up to Bitterbridge to negotiate with Renly Baratheon. So they go back a long time. It's a friendly Frey now, okay? Water under the bridge. No pun intended, considering that they are now in the water tower. Or around it, anyway. No, she's just lost. She's just, left her quarters in the water tower. But, okay, you get the thing, all right. So, yeah. So where's Perwyn? Wouldn't you know it? Lothar informs her. This Perwyn can't make it to the wedding. How about that? Also, just so we don't forget, Perwyn also happens to be Roslyn's brother. Okay, yeah, that was, I guess, the bit of information that I should have disclosed first. So it's doubly shocking to Catelyn that he won't be able to be there for his own sister's wedding. Well, what are you going to do, right? Yeah, with all this rain, the weather is not on our side. So next thing Catelyn does is she goes and see the resident maester, because something Edmure said gave her pause. What if Roslyn really is barren? So naturally, given how strict privacy laws are in Westeros, she's thinking, sure, I'll just ask the family maester and he'll immediately hand me Roslyn's whole medical history file. Sure, why wouldn't he? And he does, actually. I mean, this Maester Brennett simply tells Catelyn that, if Roslyn is half as fertile as her mother, Bethany Rosby, who had a whole bunch of children with Old Waldor, of whom no fewer than 5 made it past childhood, which I guess is great by Westerosi standards. Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing about dead babies. And a chance for George R. Martin also to give us a few more scraps of information on the Frey family tree. So these 5 children, okay. There's the above-mentioned Perwyn and Roslyn. Then there's Sir Ben Frey, and a Williaman, who, we are told, is a maester himself and serves Lord Hunter in the Vale. See, they all had, not only did they make it past childhood, but they all had interesting careers where good brains are required. See, nothing to worry about, Catelyn. Incidentally, I don't know if this character, Maester Williaman, will be used in a future subplot at some point. I frankly don't remember, but I don't think so. Well, maybe The Winds of Winter. Yeah, that's right, dear listener. The Winds of Winter, as I speak right now, hasn't yet been released. I hope you're listening to this from a happier era, historical age, where you can just waltz into a bookstore and talk to the person behind the counter and go, hello there, hand me the nice crisp copy of The Winds of Winter, for I intend to read it. Because right now, no. Anyway, so yeah, Williaman. We don't know. Williaman Rosby? Yeah, but maesters kind of lose their, their house allegiance. Rosby Frey. What's that? Well, never mind. It doesn't matter. When you're a maester, you're a maester. When you're a maester all the way. So yeah. Anyway, so and then there's Oliver Frey, another brother of this Roslyn gal. Yes, my cat approves of Oliver. He likes Oliver. Yeah, I know. Grey Wind also likes him, apparently. A little bit. Whereas he despises Oliver's uncle, Rolf Spicer. I mean, you really can't stand him, can he? Anyway, I'm getting distracted here by my cat. I apologize. And Oliver, you might remember from the previous Catelyn chapter, Oliver Frey is basically the reason why Robb didn't take his current squire with him. Rolam Westerling, Jane's brother. Because this Oliver Frey was part of the whole package negotiated by Catelyn in exchange for a safe crossing of the river from all the way back in Game of Thrones, Catelyn 10. Catelyn 10. And he had been a loyal squire until that chapter I just told you about, where the Freys discovered Robb was going to marry Jane Westerling, at which point they stormed out of Riverrun, taking Oliver with them, even though the latter was keen on staying with Robb. So yeah, Catelyn figured, okay, so this Oliver dude is likely to be there at the Twins, and let's not forget, he is also Old Walder's son. So to turn up with Oliver's replacement as a squire, would be yet another affront at Old Walder's expenses. So in an effort to deprive Walder of any ammunitions, excuses to take any further offences, Catelyn advised Robb to leave Rolam Westerling behind and maybe allow Oliver to squire for Robb, if that makes sense. So yeah, here are the Rosby Freys in a nutshell. After that, Kat goes to see Robb. Busy day, Kat, huh? She goes back and forth, like in those 1960s comedies where people follow each other, stalk each other in hotel lobbies, corridors, and whatnot. Okay, so anyway, she finds them all there in the royal suite, drying by the fireplace. Robin Flint, the great John, King in the North. He just loves to say that over and over again. And the small John. Oh, there was also, that's right, there's also Small John. Sir Wendell Manderley. This is the second son of big, jolly, fat and jolly Wyman Manderley. Yeah, and a man who needs no introductions, although he certainly knows how to make an ominous entrance. He turns around and there he is, Lord Roose Bolton. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, you made it at last. Yeah, I know. How about this crazy weather, huh? Yeah. Okay, let's cut the crap. What's with the long faces? Asks Kat. Because she has noticed that there's a strange gloom around the room. So as it turns out, the Lannister army is just across the Trident River. An information we'd better store for later. And Wyman Manderley's other son, Wendell's brother Wylis, has been captured again. Oh, Wylis. I don't know if you remember, but back the Wylis, yeah? When he was first captured by the Lannisters, we received news of that at the Harvest Feast in Bran 2 from A Clash of Kings. So yeah, we got news that Sir Wylis was taken captive by the Lannisters on the Green Fork, and at the time, Wyman commented, I know Wylis would not want to sit out the rest of the war. He will want to be freed, that's what he meant. Gallant, that son of mine, and fierce as a mastiff. I'm smiling because when we meet him again in a Feast for Crows, we'll see how fierce as a mastiff he actually is. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about it. And the great news keep on coming and there are all news brought here by Roose Bolton, who has just arrived. Okay, so Winterfell is confirmed as being no more, as Maester Aemon put it, literally the previous chapter, John 6. Not only that, but also that Clay Kerwin and Leopold Tolhart have also lost their lives there at Winterfell, the Battle of Winterfell. These were basically people who had joined Roderick Cassel and marched to the relief of Winterfell at the time. But listen how Roose explains the whole thing, which is so infuriating, because I just have to read you the quote. The Iron Men burned both Castle and Wintertown. Some of your people, Lady Catelyn, were taken back to the Dreadfort by my son Ramsay. Okay, first of all, back to the Dreadfort. What for? Safety? And or hostages, more like. And who is he talking about? Your people? There's no Starks there, no people working for Catelyn. Who is he talking about? Little Walder and Big Walder? Do you know how much Cat cares about those two little shits? And besides, what's going on here? This lie that it was the Ironborn who set fire to Winterfell certainly seems to have long legs, considering that we readers remember all too well from the last Theon chapter in A Clash of Kings that the last thing Theon saw and heard before losing consciousness was Ramsay shouting, and here's the quote, "Save me the phrase, the bastard was shouting as the flames roared upward. And burn the rest. Burn it all." While a man whipped a torch and round his head and then lofted it towards the thatched roof of the stables. So there, the Iron Men, the Ironborn, set fire to Winterfell. No, that's rubbish. So, but that's the bullshit about Ironborn burning Winterfell to the ground. Is it Ramsay that's feeding fake news to Roose? Safe in the knowledge that Roose can't fact check any of that. And actually, Kat does call Roose on this bullshit because she goes, "Oh, oi, are you painting your bastard as a hero? Because last I heard, he was a murderous and sadistic psychopath accused of crimes against humanity." And then after a bit of an awkward silence, oops, she goes, "Oops, I guess I was carried away back there. Sorry." Yeah, let's all get some frozen yogurt. But yeah, I mean, that's the last description I heard of Ramsay. And by the way, incidentally, the whole thing about the Ironborn setting fire to to Winterfell was a news that had already reached Catelyn. You remember the phrase, the Lothar, the party of Freys, was this Rivers, Lothar Frey, Walder Rivers, Walter Frey. When they were first discussing this wedding, I think that the phrase. No, the phrase didn't start that fake news, but it certainly circulated a lot, and now that's how the Maesters have probably recorded it in history. And Roose doesn't try to justify, how vicious Ramsay actually is. He goes, yeah, his blood is tainted, that cannot be denied, yet he's a good fighter, as cunning as he's fearless. When the Iron Men cut down Sir Roderick, which is fake news because it was actually Ramsay who literally cut Sir Roderick's arm off when the latter extended it to try and shake Ramsay's hand. But yeah, when the Iron Men cut down Sir Roderick and Leopold Tallhart soon after, which is also rubbish, it fell to Ramsay to lead the battle. And he did, yeah. And that made me proud back there. He swears that he shall not sheath his sword so long as a single Greyjoy remains in the north. Perhaps such service might atone in some small measure for whatever crimes his bastard blood has led him to commit. Or not, I don't care, yeah. When the war is done, his grace must wait and judge. But by then, I hope to have a true-born son by Lady Walda, so I can give Ramsay a kick up the arse, and you guys can do whatever you want with him. Interesting character, this Roose. To conclude and Catelyn notices that, and she goes, "Oh, what a cold man!" Yeah, and not for the first time she has noticed that. Because they're the family of psychopaths. They have no empathy. We will see later on how, Roose just takes good and bad news with the same, what are you going to do? No, he's going to kill me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the exact quote right now, but yeah, he's completely cold, rational, and to conclude the news report, Roose confirms the update on Theon Greyjoy, which again we read about in John 6. This was the news that Gren gave John in the previous chapter, and God knows where Gren got it from, because he told him, your brothers were avenged, you know. Bolton's son killed all the Iron Men, and it said he's slain Theon Greyjoy inch by inch for what he did. And this Roose confirms by downloading the attachment, shall we say. Yeah, because there was a little item included in the letter Ramsay sent to Roose. Trigger warning, there will be bits of body parts. No, actually, no, you're not supposed to say trigger warning. Content warning. Yeah, you've been content warned. Yeah, now, of course, I'm kidding. You wouldn't be reading these books if you were the kind of person who needs content warning. I think it's safe to assume I'm probably more squeamish than you are, dear listener. So anyway, what Roose Bolton produces out of his breast pocket is, I'll read the quote here, the skin from the little finger of Theon Greyjoy's left hand. My son is cruel, I confess it. And yet, just look at it. Isn't it cute? Pinky finger skin, yeah? PFS, as the youngest call it. Yeah, this kind of accessory is all the rage these days, Lady Catelyn. As a bracelet or ankle bracelet, perhaps, you know. I think it would look fabulous on you at the beach, Lady Catelyn. Then, do you want to try it? Yeah? Okay, again, dialogue paraphrased here, but the next passage is verbatim. Part of Catelyn wanted to clutch the grisly trophy to her heart. Wow! But she made herself resist. Oh, put it away, please. I'm squeamish. So there. And we find out that Theon is still alive. I would not want to be... Yeah, now let's not even think about it. He's been kept alive, though skinned by Ramsay bit by bit. Imagine that. Because with Balon Greyjoy gone, Theon is actually the rightful heir to the Seastone chair. And whoever wants to claim that title will certainly want Theon dead. So that, you know, Roose has figured that by keeping Theon alive and not so well, the North can have some kind of leverage on the next, on whoever is next in claiming the title of King of the Ironborn, you know. Or so Roose Bolton assures us. Even Rob seems to finally agree that the whole thing kind of like makes sense, okay? Also, interestingly, here Bolton blames himself for the Lannister having reached the Trident. He goes into a lengthy explanation as to why he left Harrenhal at the last moment, when was not too late, and by the time he managed to ferry most of his men across to the north bank of the river, his own men, the Lannister army attacked those who were left on the south bank. Coincidentally, all Stark loyalists, you know, Norrie, Locke and Burley, men chiefly, but more importantly, Sir Wylis Manderley and his White Harbor Knights. Roose was, of course, powerless to help on the other side of the river. So as it happens, all Dreadfort men were already on the north side of the river, while those Stark loyalists were made into mincemeat by Gregor Clegane and company. Yeah. Oh, I mean, Roose. Oh, you adorable klutz. Come here, you. Oh, Ruffus is there. Oh, you have been decimating all of Rob's best men since Duskendale, Roose. I mean, with friends like you, who needs enemies? Oh, I can't stay mad at you, Roose. Come here, you fuzzy and warm teddy bear. Let me give you a hug. It's good to see you again. Yeah, no, that actually doesn't happen. Okay, anyway. By the way, Duskendale is mentioned here. Which enrages Rob again. Oh, because he goes, Duskendale, cleaning woman. 5 points if you got that quote. Duskendale, don't talk to me about Duskendale. What was Robert Glover thinking, attacking a place of zero strategic importance? Oh, I'll give Robert a piece of my mind next time I see him, I'll tell you that. And even Roose, he goes, oh yeah, I know, right, yeah. When in fact, we readers know perfectly well that it was Roose who ordered that attack. We saw it happen in Area 10 from Clash of Kings. But here, listen to what he says. But Glover was heedless when he learned that Deepwood Motte had fallen. Grief and fear will do that to a man. Ha! If I didn't know any better, Roose, I'd say you're shifting the blame of your blunder on Robert Glover, huh? Or is there something more sinister at play? Dun dun dun. On a conclusive note, if you look at the map, and considering that Roose Bolton came from Harrenhal, right, it's possible that the Dreadfort men crossed the Trident on boats not too far from where Arya and Sandor crossed on that ferry, Harroway town, just one chapter ago. Although, as far as the timeline is concerned, I think Arya's crossing has yet to take place. I think. Anyway, so the chapter concludes with Roose reassuring Robb and Cat that there's nothing to fear because he brought some 3,500 Dreadfort men, all mean as hell, badass, armed to their teeth. Oh, and a bunch of Karstark men. Yeah. Remember those guys, who swore revenge on Robb for executing Rickard Karstark? Yeah, those guys. Roose wants to keep them handy. So once again, what could possibly go wrong, huh? All right, so anyway, aren't you just looking forward to this wedding? Or as Sandor Clegane calls it when talking to Arya, your uncle's bloody wedding. All right, well, dear listener, we made it to the end of this chapter. Lots of news, lots of things to take on board and to, make a mental note to go back to on reread. Lots of, clues littered throughout the chapter, but this is where I'll shut up and this is where I leave you. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to do all of the things. Or not, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the next chapter, which, as I said, is an Arya chapter. So bye.